If you are seeing this sigil, the number 53, this is your shadow work for shadow self identification. All right, you are currently so identified with something that you cannot separate yourself from that thing enough to be objective or conscious about it. Okay, you can't be a third person, you're just in it. Identity is the condition of being oneself, i.e., one separate self. Another word for this is ego. Whenever we associate something with ourself, we identify with it. It becomes part of us, the same as us. This is what actually really is. It is identification. And if the thing we identify with is threatened, we experience it as a threat to our own survival, a personal attack, basically. One could argue that identification is a good thing when we identify with things that make us feel good. But the minute we identify with something that causes us to feel good, it contains within it the seed of its own opposite. Worthiness carries the seed of unworthiness. Worthiness carries a seed of unworthiness. Get it? Excitement carries a seed of disappointment. Far more troubling, however, is that we often identify with things that cause us to feel bad, and then we have to keep those things alive in order to keep our own sense of self alive. When it comes to identification, it is not only things external to us that causes us suffering. It is also identification with things we perceive to be internal. We are the most identified with the three primary aspects of ourself: our body, our mind, and our emotions. Each of these aspects is inherently a different expression of source consciousness. We mistake this expression for the totality of who we are. It's a bit like a painter who has become so identified with his painting that he has forgotten that who he ultimately is more than his painting. We think we are our emotions. We think we are our bodies, and we are our thoughts. In truth, you could disidentify with just about anything if you want to. To disidentify with something, you must first identify it as different from yourself, as other than you. For example, if you would like to disidentify from your own pain, all you must do is to conceptualize your pain as a separate entity, and when you experience pain, observe the pain as if you were watching this separate entity reacting. If you have a Gemini friend, watch them or ask them how do they come up with the decisions, and they'll be able to teach you some things. And I'm actually a Gemini, so yeah. In this way, you do not take the pain personally. This sigil will remind you never to do this separating from process with an attitude of resistance. Instead, allow the aspects of you that you want to disidentify from by exposing them to your conscious awareness, to fall away like rose petals exposed to the sun. Or if you look outside, a lot of places it's fall. Over here I'm in fall, like the leaves withering and falling. This is the key: to try to push away the things you are identified with. Only causes you to become more identified. It only causes you to feel rejected by yourself. You will initially cause an intense survival reaction in response to your own self-rejection. You cannot try to take something away from yourself without hurting yourself. As it applies to body, thoughts, and emotions, you cannot try hard to disconnect from those aspects of yourself without those things being perceived internally by you as self-abandonment. The way to allow these aspects to fall away is first to recognize them. Relative to the situation, take out a sheet of paper and jot down all the things you suspect you might be identified with. You can be sure that there are many more than those you wrote down, because we like to fake the funk with ourselves. But this is a consciousness exercise. This is a shadow work for shadow self exercise. A good way to find things you're identified with is to look at everything you call mine. For example, the minute you say my friend, you are identified as thus attached to them. Also, everything you would prefer after, like I am blah, 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 blah. For example, the minute you say I am sexy, I am fly, I am funny, I am cute, I am smart, I am wise, you are identified with being sexy or smart or wise or cute or strong. Try to identify thoughts and beliefs you are identified with. For example, money doesn't grow on trees might be a thought you are identified with. Try to recognize emotions you are identified with, right? So you know that money doesn't grow on trees. So try to recognize the emotion of that you identify with. The ones you are the most identified with are the ones that are chronic or come up often in your life. Because we have been blindsided by emotional, mental, or physical pain when we were enjoying ourselves at some point. And perhaps even more than that, we have repeatedly been blindsided by such pain when we were enjoying ourselves. Basically, what is happening for many people who cannot be happy is that the very feeling of joy and happiness itself becomes a trigger for a post-traumatic response. Stress response. Why is this a problem? Because you are now fighting with your own survival instincts to be happy. The wire in your own mind has become crossed to such a degree that your own being is trying to keep you feeling good by keeping you from feeling good. The strongest instinct in the physical body is to drive to avoid pain for the sake of survival. The minute your mind associates pleasure with pain, your brain wires itself to avoid positive feelings, states for the sake of feeling positive. When this has happened, we start to feel like our own mind is working against us and we are being prevented from happiness in every way, as if our being is an enemy living within. But understand this dynamic should give you a bit of relief because it means that your own being loves you so much that ironically it motivates you from keeping you unhappy is so that you will feel good. It is common for people who have been hurt to build walls between themselves and others to keep pain out. But the downside is that they also keep love and happiness out. But there is another kind of wall built by those who have been hurt even more, which is designed to keep good feeling things like love and happiness out, but to keep pain in. The most common reason why we would keep pain in is a dynamic that begins in childhood. When we are young, we are rewarded for being good and punished for being bad. We learn very quickly that the only way to be loved is to be good. Since we need love more than we need food or water, our very survival depends on us being good, but there is a problem. What if we are born into a family with parents who show a great deal of love and support and even reward us when we are hurt emotionally or physically? We learn that pain is good. We learn that since love and support and reward go to the person who is hurting, there must be goodness or virtue in pain. It is good to show support for children who are in pain, but this support goes sour when we are only shown support when we are in pain. It causes us to get the message that feeling good means being bad. We begin to feel shame and fear in association with happiness. Being bad means being unloved and thus ultimately dying. And so we begin to see feeling bad as good and feeling good as bad. We think that without pain, we'll be forsaken completely. Often, for those of us who suffer chronically, pain is our buffer we will use to keep ourselves safe. Not only does it prevent us from feeling loss and shock, it also acts like a cushion. For most beings on earth, joy is their baseline and they experience temporary bouts of happiness and pain. But for some of us, especially those of us who find our way to self-help and spirituality, the tables are often turned. Suffering is our baseline and we experience temporary bouts of happiness and pleasure. When this is the case, happiness feels more like, fleeting, temporary illusion. It begins to feel not real, whereas unhappiness feels like a more permanent, inevitable truth of life itself. If suffering is your baseline, I want you to ask yourself two very important and personal questions and try to answer them with as much honesty, brutal honesty, as possible. What is my positive intention for being unhappy or suffering? 2, what bad things would happen if I were always happy and full of joy? Most of us think that we are trying, to be happy, but are not even aware that we have a subconscious motivation to be unhappy. We are, in essence, engaging in a tug of war between our conscious mind that wants happiness and our subconscious mind that doesn't, because of what it thinks that happiness entails. Another potential is, seeing the sigil, is that you are suppressing a positive about yourself, such a positive character trait or talent. We often assume that people only suppress, deny, reject, and disown bad things. This is not the case. Imagine a little girl who loves to sing. If this little girl grows up in a family that believes singing is a waste of time, and that the little girl has to get her head out of the clouds and do something that will ensure her future, she may experience enough pain relative to the disapproval of her family when she focuses on singing that she may suppress her incredible singing voice. As she grows up, she may even suppress the awareness that she can sing, along with the memories of loving to sing. So, this sigil may have come to you as a calling to rediscover and re-own a positive aspect of yourself that you have suffered under the floorboards of your own consciousness. Pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. So the sigil has come to make you aware that in this situation, you are not letting yourself see, feel, hear, understand, or experience the positive. It has come to remind you that you deserve to feel good. You deserve happiness. You deserve to express your truest self, especially those amazing positive parts about you. And you deserve to feel safe when you feel happy. Have a wonderful day and night for your shadow work for shadow self. Oracle card reading number 53.